And what's the update on how long they might hold up? What is the status of the talks?
Yeah, it's a bit murky right now. The strike, of course, isn't against just Ford. It's also affecting General Motors and Stellantis, which owns Chrysler. These strikes started about a month ago with only a few plants, and now that the big Kentucky truck plant is on strike, there are more than 33,000 people all walking the picket lines. But that number is still only a quarter of all UAW auto workers, and there are about 146,000 of them. Details of these negotiations have been limited between both the companies and the union. Ford has shared that UAW has agreed to some changes with them. Both sides have agreed to restoring cost of living adjustments, but there's appear to be some big disagreements that have not been settled yet.
I know, just briefly want to ask about one key priority of the strikes, which is unionizing workers in battery plants for electric vehicles. Where does that stand?
Right, so EV batteries are a big deal, especially here in Kentucky. Ford is involved in building 2 battery plants that are expected to start production in 2025. Now, the union says that General Motors has agreed to include EV battery production in the union contract, but Ford as a company there is not there yet. It still says it's open to a solution for the battery plants, but what that might look like between the company and the UAW is very unclear.
Alrighty, thanks for your reporting.
Thank you.
That is Jacob Munoz with Louisville Public Media.
Of the more than 2 million people living in Gaza, roughly half are under the age of 18. That's according to the United Nations. And that means many of the civilians experiencing these airstrikes now and bracing for an Israeli ground invasion are children. So how might this conflict affect a region that's so densely populated with people who are so young? For perspective on that, we've called Maha Nassar. She's a professor in the School of Middle Eastern and North African Studies at the University of Arizona, and she's one of many voices we're talking to about the war between Israel and Hamas. I started by asking her to break down the demographics of Gaza.
So about half, as you said, is under the age of 18, and 70% of the population living in the Gaza Strip are under the age of 30. So it is an overwhelmingly young population.
And why is the population in Gaza so young? Like, how did that come to be?
Well, unfortunately, so many adults have been killed in Gaza. For the last 16 years, a blockade that's been imposed on Gaza by Israel and enforced by Egypt and Israel controls everything that goes into and out of the Gaza Strip. So food, medicine, all of that is controlled by Israel. And the Gaza Strip lacks very basic health needs for the people living there. So as a result of Israel's blockade and bombings of Gaza, life expectancy for Palestinians there is a full 10 years less than it is for Israelis living just a few miles away.
Wow. We reached a mother in the city of Rafah, which is in southern Gaza. Her name is Fida Al-Araj, and I want to play a piece of tape for you. She's talking about the very difficult decision she had to make to flee northern Gaza.
My daughter, she said to me, what are you waiting for? Yesterday, we were crying for our cousins. Do you want people to cry over our dead bodies today? So I have to leave.
That's why she left. As a historian, may I ask you, is there anything in particular that you are thinking about right now about how this horrific fighting will shape the future of the kids and teenagers who survive this?
I think what it's going to mean is that an already traumatized population is being subjected to even more trauma yet again. Already, we found in 2021, after the last Israeli war on Gaza, a study found that 91% of children in the Gaza Strip suffer from PTSD. I'm afraid that number is surely going to rise 100% because of these horrific bombings that haven't spared anyone. So even those children who survive the current bombings, they will have to face the consequences of seeing neighbors, relatives, classmates killed by Israel. And this war is traumatizing every single one of Gaza's children. It's also traumatizing the parents and all the adults in Gaza, as you heard from Fida, from that mother. So many parents in the Gaza Strip are desperately trying to shield their children from these horrors. And as a parent myself, My heart goes out to them.
If I may ask you a personal question.
Sure.
I understand, Maha, that you still have family in Gaza. Have you been able to reach them?